$100 Bitcoin fees done.
Who would have ever
$100 cheap.
seen that coming?
First of all, I want to say, we've been saying this for almost 3 years on this channel. And there's even people, I want to address critics. There's even people who have said the fees are going down. You know who you are.
Which doesn't make sense because that's actually the worst case scenario. The fees have to go up, and you want them to go up because that's the game plan you chose.
Security.
That's the game plan you chose. You chose fees over inflation. It's not that hard. It's like you either have inflation or you have high fees. There's no in between, right? Like, how else do you pay these people? In a decentralized way. Keep in mind, it has to be decentralized. You have some company backing it. So if there's not inflation from the protocol, which you have to be intricate about, then it has to be high fucking fees. And the fees have to be so high that it can't be 51% attacked by a Cracker Jack box. Like, the fees have to be fucking astronomical to where Walmart can't come in and say, I own Bitcoin. I have 99% of the hash rate power. Like, people, and that's one thing people mind, somebody like Sato, they'll say, well, you can't 51% attack. And everybody, what do you mean you can't? It's like, well, you'd lose money. And it's like, well, that means you can 51% attack it, you just lose money. And he's like, well, yeah, but who would do that? A lot of people would do that. A lot of governments, a lot of bad people would do that. You think they care about money? Like, they want control. So it's like the long haul game. They'll be like, yeah, we might lose a little bit of money, but then we control your goddamn network. Yep. So the fees have to be astronomical. You think the fees are low now. The fees have to be so high that it has to be worth it for these fucking people to secure the network. And we're talking thousands and thousands. Like, I envision $5,000 to mint, put anything in ordinals or whatever, and that's gonna be huge. And people are that's gonna be never go away. People are always gonna do that shit. That's the new art. It's the new way to add graffiti. You put it's perfect because it's expensive, so people can show off and say, ha ha ha, I'm a baller, I'm on the main chain. Perfect. NFT's proven that that's what people like, and that's not going away. And then you also have the fact that you're gonna be able to have probably $1,000 fees just to send. So just to send and receive Bitcoin, I'm thinking 500 to 1,000. Ordinals are going to be a big part of it. And at the end of the day, you're going to have blocks that are worth 8-9 figs. Yeah. And
well, you already do. Yesterday that happened.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, and people think, oh, well, that's just a spurt of the thing. It's like, no, that's just Bitcoin's not adopted. It's not adopted. Like, once it becomes really fucking adopted and you have institutions putting ordinals on, you have historical documents being put on, you have videos being put on, you have people paying all this kinds of money. Somebody paid, I don't know, some astronomical amount of money to have, I think it was called 3 titties, and it was 0 supply and you couldn't mint it, which means he just burned it. So there was just somebody out there who spent a ridiculous amount of money to get an early inscription just to waste it. Just wasted it. There's no coins. There's no way to do anything with it. And it's just called triple titty. So it's like, these fees are going to be ridiculous, and you can't comprehend what people are going to do, because you have people taking it serious, and then you have just the triple titty motherfuckers who are just like trying to just be fun.
Is that the one that was $0.7?
Well, no, you can't buy it. They burned it. It's not, there's 0 supply. They named it triple titties, and they had 0 supply. And you can't buy it.
There's no supply of triple titties in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe they were making
so somebody just did it because why not? You know?
I saw one yesterday that was a 6-figure transaction, and it was a 70-cent fee. Like, it was a 70-cent send transaction, but the fee was like 6 figures. Because people are trying to get hold of, people don't realize this, like, it's like the internet again. Everyone's trying to get hold of A.com and B.com and C.com.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's what they want. They want those first ordinal blocks.
And that's going to be sustained forever, because there's a amount of names.
That'll never stop happening with human behavior.
Plus, you have people wanting to put like actual pictures on chain. So, I mean, that's what Bitcoin has become.
There's people, right? This is crazy. There's people, they're checking the chain to see if transactions are going through for the names of ordinals, right? For this special name. And then someone else is putting the same name on with a higher fee.
Yeah, exactly. There's
Like,
a lot of sniping. Replaced by fee allows It's a rich man's game. Nothing about Bitcoin is. I would call it fair because it's like the jungle. It's like the fucking tiger and the gorilla fight. Like it's a fair fight. It's like whoever's got the resource. Like if I can outbid you, I'm gonna outbid you. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I'm saying that's the path that's taken, and these are the gaps that need to be filled, or there's going to be dire consequences. Because you can't just have, a chain for the rich, the people who can outmuscle, and then everyone having to use pleb layer 2s that are all centralized except for one, Hive. You can't have pre-mine. You have to have layer 1 security. And I say layer 1 security, you have to have fucking bulletproof goddamn security that is game theory. And you say, what happens in a worst case scenario? Bitcoin doesn't even have that. And the reason why it's great to have an alternative layer 1 is because what if Bitcoin's an all-in? What I mean by that is if you lose control, it's done. You can't fork it. It's not forkable. Of course it's forkable, but it's not forkable the infrastructure. You can't cancel out the attacker. You can't, you fork, they attack you again because they have the infrastructure all built. If not, you say, well, I need a new infrastructure, and now you have to have infrastructure adopted worldwide. It's it's an all-in scenario. It's like, we're all in.
There's only one
and
proof of
if
work
we fuck, and if we lose, and it's tyranny. Whereas there's other methods where it's like, well, if you fuck around, you find out. If you attack, we can defend. We can fork you out. So there's this whole mentality of, and I like proof of work. I think it's great. I think it's a very neat invention. It really favors the elite because anything that has energy or infrastructure to do with it, who fucking has that, right? And plus you have no parameters. So of course there's going to be 1 or 2 mining pools instead of 20, right? You can have 20 mining pools on Bitcoin. You say you need 20. You need at least 20 to fucking operate, and they all get say and weighted and all that. But you went with unparametered infrastructure voting, which leads to what we see today, which is still decentralized.
But it's expensive. So exclusive.
Yeah, exactly. It's for the rich. So the rich now have a way to have censorship resistance, which they love. Everyone loves censorship resistance. And then the plebs get the Walmarts, the Chase Banks, the fucking Coinbases.
But what people are realizing right now is this very thing. We've been saying it for years, literally. And it's that the rich have started to take control of Bitcoin. It's a chain for the elite. And when you start to realize that they can afford to pay these fees to get their A.com minted, to get the first ordinal on this block minted, and they'll pay whatever it takes. You realize that, Bitcoin it's separating itself. It's still baller, it's still badass, but it's for very wealthy individuals. And this was the tipping point. This halvening was the tipping point with these runes on chain. It's becoming very obvious at this point, and people need to adapt. Now, I think that's important. It's important that the rich have a clearing layer, right? It's important that everyone has a clearing layer. Unfortunately, Bitcoin doesn't cater for everyone, and that realization needs to be made. And then the question is, well, how do we give everyone else a clearing layer, a table of truth? And the maxis need to be combated at this point because they have to make a choice. They should have made this choice years ago, but it hasn't been very obvious to everyone until now. But maxis have to say they're either pro-Bitcoin for everything, which means they're pro-rich, pro-elite, or they're pro-everyone having the same digital rights, in which case they have to be pro some other technology as well as Bitcoin. Yeah. And therein lies the paradox, because you can't be a maxi and be pro something.
Yeah, you said it, Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is absolutely necessary because money is centralization. Money is big motherfucking governments, the powers that be. That's liquidity. That's what we revolve around. That's the sun. They need a liquidity layer because they all can't trust anybody. That's Bitcoin. That's needed because that in this game we're playing, that's the liquidity, and it's always going to be the liquidity. It's like dealing with the mafia. It's like they're there. You have to fucking deal with them. You can't exclude them. So what Bitcoin has done, because the mafia now is banks, and you can't attach to these banks in a decentralized way. You have to KYC. This new way, this new neutral world way of doing it, and for it to have censorship resistance, right, it means that it has to allow crabs out of the bucket. So if you have your own infrastructure, which they know people won't bring. But if you actually have like a layer 1 community that has an absolute incentive that doesn't need a business model, it's because it's a common good, it's absolutely necessary, and it can revolve around some kind of small fee structure or inflation-based incentive because you have a transaction layer. You can have a community-run Lightning Network node where you now can permissionlessly get into liquidity. Now, whatever happens, I believe they're always going to have their game and they're always going to have their way of playing. In the parallel world, right, we don't need the infrastructure or anything. We piggyback off of them. But the trick is, no matter what, people think that governments are going to go away. There's always going to be a tax man. There's always going to be a tax man. There always has been. There always will be. I don't know why. They're just so powerful. And they're tax people. And they want their goddamn money. And they're going to come get their money. And I don't think even in an anarcho-poco, Mad Max world, you're still going to have fucking tax collectors because they'll be the mafia people or they'll be the fucking, they don't necessarily need to be governments. There's always going to be people who are more powerful than you that take a reasonable amount. You take the wool off a fucking sheep or whatever, but you don't skin the actual sheep. That sort of thing. Like, they're always going to exist in some shape and some form. These people are always going to exist, so we need to be able to interact with their world, right? We need to be able to pay our taxes. So we don't want to actually have to live inside the money they create because it sucks and they can control it even more, right? We want our money on our own terms, and that's going to suck. They're not going to like that. But then they're going to realize they have to deal with it, and they're like, all right, well, at least pay your taxes or I won't give you a black eye or whatever. So it's like, you fucking pay your taxes, and you need a way to enter their world without KYC. So that's the hat trick here. That's what Bitcoin has done. That's one of the things they didn't foresee. They did not foresee, and it's a black swan. There's no way, because if you were to game theory this, because this is fucking brilliant. Whoever thought of this is fucking genius. You're talking about the high fee, pleb layer. Like, they could not envision that some random ass fucking community is going to have enough censorship resistance, because that's a lot. And they're like, fuck you, like you're going to create censorship resistance without incentives. Go fuck yourself. They're not going to believe it. And we binked the tech stack somehow. Time travel, whatever you want to call it, fucking crazy shit. We binked the tech stack. So we have like this literal blueprint of how to do it, and it works, and it's working. No, it's a black swan. That's what you call a black swan. That no one could have fucking predicted.
It's a black swan for the system, though.
Yeah, so they've built Bitcoin in a way where, I don't know if you've seen fucking Lord of the Rings, or not Lord of the Hobbit, where Smaug comes out, he's invincible, but he's got one little scale missing. And Frodo's like, you got a scale missing. I see that shit. They fucking did that with Bitcoin. They did not plan for such a black swan. They opened themselves up to where anyone could attach, which is their mistake, because now we can permissionlessly exit in and out of their system without KYC, which they fucking don't want. So that's the whole idea. That's the crab they missed because they did not plan for the black swan. There's nothing they could do now. They're trying with their KYC Lightning Network nodes, but anyone can open up their own node. Now you can try to isolate. What I think is going to happen is they're going to be like, oh, you're non-KYC fucking node. You're a red flag in the system or whatever. Like we're going to target you. So you're going to need, we're going to have to think about situations like that. Moving it on to a neutral layer where it's wrapped. We're talking on Hive. That makes it much more censorship resistance than just having a single community Lightning Network node. Having a way to go from that to any Lightning Network node is important, but there's going to be a battle there as they start to entrench and try to claw and try to fix that hole they have. But no matter what, it's a whack-a-mole game, and we can always permissionlessly open up our own Lightning Network node and receive and send Bitcoin with it. They may black flag it in fucking US or whatever the fuck, but maybe Venezuela's like, whatever, you're cool. So like, that's the gap they missed. And if they fucking covered that, we would be isolated and really we'd be fucked, because you can't start a fire without kindling. I.e., you can't start a parallel economy without the ability to be able to interact with the yin and the old. You can't just say, we're here, we're clear, we're taking over, drop everything, you have to use us only. It's not real. If the people are like, I can't get out of this thing, I need to pay taxman doesn't accept this, you're fucked. You have to have a way for a person to say, hey, I can live and earn in a parallel economy and pay tax man at the same time and keep my dignity without having to KYC. KYC is so bad on so many levels. First of all, it's about dignity. It's like a line in the sand. It's like, you do not need to know that much about me. Who the fuck are you? My money, I should be able to do what I want. You don't treat me as if I'm guilty, like I'm a bad person. Like, go fuck yourself. The moment you succumb to that, you're succumbing to weird shit. And then you can't trust them because maybe they leak everything about you. Like, they get hacked, and it's happened over and over and over again. So it's like, there's so many levels where it's just like, it's dumb, it's archaic, and it's stupid. Not to mention they can control you. It's another thing. It's like, you shouldn't be able, if you're not a criminal, you shouldn't be treated like a criminal. I don't know why we've woken up in a world where we thought it was okay to think, oh, I have $600 in my account. You need to know why and where I'm spending. It's like, dude, what the fuck? I'm not a criminal. Fuck off. Like, that's my tax dollars going to you to fucking do shit to me that I don't want and I think is unnecessary. It's like, focus on the big time criminals, right? Crabs will get out of the bucket. Who gives a fuck about $600? Like, what about the $6 billion that's being muzzled, embezzled, and all this shit? Like, focus your resource where it matters. It's so obvious they're beyond that, though. They want control. They want to know everything about you. They want to control you. It's that simple. And the Lightning Network, CBDC, without Hive, or a layer 1 alternative transaction layer that you can get off of, you're absolutely fucked. We could already be fucked because they're going to UBI it. So now it's going to be UBI versus dignity. It's like, do you earn from a government, suck the government teat, or do you have dignity and actually earn it? This is not coincidence. These are two parallel things. Give, I'm a fucking person. I'm getting it for fucking free from the government. So I'll fight for my government because they put food on my table, but I give away my dignity and my freedom. And then there's another fucking path. There's only two, right? Two sides of a coin. Dignity. Give me the ability to earn. I don't want to be given for free. I want to be able to earn. There's two forces right now happening. CBDC Lightning Network, it reaches everyone. They couldn't build banks in Africa. They couldn't build the infrastructure. It's too goddamn slow. The SWIFT system could not enslave us all. This can. The Lightning Network can enslave every single person on earth. That is the plan. Everyone with a phone, you don't have a phone, we'll give you a phone, we'll give you $30 a month or whatever the fuck you need to survive with your fucking government phone. That's what they want. It's so obvious that's where it's heading because they did it in El Salvador, but they did it wrong. They realized people don't want Bitcoin, they want stable coins. CBDC is hard. They don't call it CBDC, they call it a stable coin on a Lightning Network. That's what they want. And then the governments are like, fuck yeah, man, print your fucking fiat on Lightning Network. It's not about the fucking fees or any of that. It's about net connect. Who can we reach? We can't, Chase Bank can't get the infrastructure, the technology literally can't do it. With the Lightning Network, they can set up a node. Oh, now we're in your country. Oh, we're in El Salvador now. Oh, now we're in Nigeria. Now we're here. Now we're here. Imagine they're in these countries that are so desperate at times, and they just want to give away free money, and people are going to gobble it up. But there will always be people who say, I want to earn my money. This is not right. I don't want to be this dependent. So there's two fucking forces that are rising.
Yeah, just to say, in a normal society, in a civilized, free society, you have to have the right to earn and you have to have innocent before proven guilty. And those two things are starting to be degraded very clearly at the moment. And you have to have those things. You have to have the right to be able to earn independent money separate to the government. I feel like we're moving into an age where you have to have the right to earn independent money from a neutral base layer. That's going to be a thing in the future. That's something that's not been thought of.
There should be a cap on government jobs as well. Some of the government jobs are like taking like 60% of the population. They should cap that shit. Like the government has a monopoly on the workforce, then they own you because then they can fire half the country. We're putting ourselves, why put ourselves, just don't put yourself so vulnerable, man. Don't rely on such an entity. There's a power though, protocol, neutral layer, you can actually earn, build a reputation, get your dignity back. We've seen it with McSam, we've seen it with Enrique, we've seen it with so many people from all over the world. The opportunity is given because of the talents they have. If they've worked for the government, what a travesty that would have been.
Yeah, so we got to have a layer whereby you can earn from the layer, a neutral layer that isn't controlled by any VC capital or any regulated entity, distribute value to people. That's the Spanner in the works. That's the black swan for the system that they didn't see. They didn't foresee coming. If you take that away, like Dan's saying, the Lightning Network is going to be able to KYC everyone. It's undignified. It's not dignifying. You have to have the principles in society of innocent until proven guilty, which means, therefore, it's a just thing to argue for systems that don't have KYC. Prove that I'm guilty first before you assume that I'm guilty, you know? Let me use non-KYC systems. Don't let me. I'm going to use non-KYC systems. We've built them. They exist. They're out there. You can't shut them down. So it's a reality. You have to let people use the non-KYCable systems. You have to let them earn autonomously and transact in a parallel economy that is not controlled by the banking system and doesn't touch the banking system. And then after that, if you want to say that they're guilty, go find the evidence. Go find the evidence.
Exactly. The onus has to be on the person. You can't just push a button and control the whole system. And taxes, they're so
It's on the individual.
Yeah, they're so focused on getting their tax that they're willing to sacrifice your freedoms. They're like, we do not trust you enough, because it all comes down to money. We do not trust you enough that you're going to tell us every dime that you have, so we need to track and control every aspect of your life, instead of saying, look, you earn your money, spend how it is, say what you say, but if you get caught, we're going to fuck you. But if you're lying to us, if we go through your shit and see you have a boat that you didn't claim or something, because that's really what happens. It's like at the end of the day, they could easily find out the individual. They're like, this is suspicious. And then you go see they have like a fucking yacht and shit. Like, I mean, that's what people do, right? They money laundry or whatever. They're like, they have assets they buy that they don't declare. It's like, if they took away all the resources of spying on us, they'd have much better quality control over focusing on, where are the outliers. And of course, crabs are going to get out of the bucket. Oh, boo fucking who, you don't get every goddamn dollar out of these fucking stones that you're trying to bleed. But you'll be able to focus on the people who are actually doing it big time, which really matters. For every big person, it's a fucking million normal. It's a joke. So it's like, it's obvious what they want. It's just control. They want your dollars, but they want to keep you poor. They don't want a middle class. It's so obvious, especially with COVID, what happened. They're like, what did COVID do? I don't give a fuck if you believe in the disease or not, or whatever the fuck it is, vaccine or not. It's like, what was the outcome? Did the middle class get poorer? And did the elite get richer? And the answer is yes. It's never a goddamn coincidence. It's never a coincidence. That doesn't just happen. It's like, whoopsie, we became richer and you became poor. Oh, how does this keep happening?
That's actually a really interesting point, because if you have a parallel economy that can distribute value from an autonomous neutral layer, you can create a middle class.
Exactly.
That's what this comes down to. It's like, if you have a thriving middle class, you have a free society, you have a free people, and you have a small, powerless government, right? Or almost powerless government. And that is the model that they want to avoid. That's where this takes us. The Lightning Network and Bitcoin takes us down to the two-class, two-tier system. Yeah, and all you got from like Tate's, people like Tate, is what I can't stand about these people. They just say, get rich. Like, who the fuck are you? How did you get rich, bro? Because we all know how you got rich. And it ain't very fucking moral. Yeah? Exactly. So don't tell everyone to just get rich, right? It doesn't work like that. You have to have a system that supports a middle class and promotes a middle class. And that system can only work if you have a parallel economy that cannot be shut down and controlled by the banking system and can distribute value to valuable people who produce value in a fair way, yeah? You don't know the answer to that because you don't know about this technology, because you haven't done the research, even though you should have, because you're smart enough and you're rich enough and you've got enough time to do the research. I don't know why you don't know about this technology, but you need to know about it. Bitcoin is not the answer, yeah? And just get rich is not the answer either, right? You keep saying that to people, you're going to get lynched at some point, bro, because people aren't going to just get rich. The system doesn't work like that. You say that from a basis that the system's fair. The system's not fair. You can clearly see from what Dan just said that the system's trying to set up so that the middle class doesn't exist. It's just lower class and upper class, right? And it's like, you have to promote a system whereby you can distribute value to normal working people who are going to build a strong middle class. And only with that can you minimize the size of the lower class and minimize the size of the upper class. And then people can just get rich if they want to, you know? At least they can live a comfortable life.
Yeah, if you think of the middle class used to be you own a home, you own a car, you have spending money, you go on vacation 2-3 times a year. You actually have time with your family. Like, that's a middle class. Like, middle class is a healthy way to be. Rich is excessive. You buy shit you don't need. Middle class, you have everything you need and then a little bit more. They're eliminating that. And why? Because you can't UBI a middle class. The middle class don't need your UBI. They're well off enough. They got their Ford truck. They got their land. They don't need your fucking UBI. The poor need your UBI. So by eliminating the middle class, those are really the soldiers. Those are the people who will fight because they're like, we like our life. We don't need excessive shit. We have what we have, and we have dignity, and we have a job and a trade we like. Another thing, they're trying to take robots to replace carpenters and all these things, these dignifying jobs, they're trying to take away that were middle-class jobs and replace it with a poor UBI. And by going after the throats of the middle class, why was Walmart able to stay open? Why were and deemed essential? Right. How are they more essential than any other mom or pop shop?
McDonald's was open, bro.
Why is McDonald's more essential than any of the mom and pop shops is beyond me. It was a clear violation of the middle class, and it really was one of the. That's why I think we're about in capitulation phase, because that was really a gut punch at an already weak middle class from what they've been doing. We need to build a way, regardless of what you think of, to have a middle class. Without a middle class, all is lost. Because there'll be too many poor people who are who need the UBI because they have families or whatever, and they're just saying, look, I don't have a choice, I'll perish if I don't have it. There's just not enough jobs, there's not enough work, not enough opportunity. And then, once they become reliant on it, it's over. They'll do things that they know are immoral. We don't want to get to that point where billions of people are in a spot, because that's the thing. We're at the path where that hasn't happened yet. And if they become reliant, they won't want to take the risk to get their dignity back. But right now, it's like they're not in that spot yet. So we can go the dignified path like we've seen in Venezuela, like all these people who are earning and rising up. They're going to, when UBI comes around, it's like, I'll take it, but I'm not going to do immoral shit. You just cut me off because I fucking have a dignified way to earn. Right? So it's like, there's going to be that, you need that thing, because there's going to come a point where people are like, I really wish I didn't have to do this. The money's not worth it, but I have a baby. It's like, if I literally had any other way, but if I do it, they're going to cut me off, and I don't know, it's risky, because what if it doesn't work out? But if you're doing it now and it's working out, you won't have the fear of being cut off the UBI.
This is the key, right? I mean, we started this conversation off about ordinals, yeah? But this is why, we got onto this, because this is way more important. This is way more important than what's going on in the shitcoin market on Bitcoin, right? Okay, that's exciting stuff. But this is way more important. It's no coincidence that COVID happened, and then all of a sudden all these businesses were shut down, and now the middle class is being degraded, everyone's struggling, right? You think that's a coincidence? You just think that's just part of the economic activity of the world? You don't think there's people engineering that shit? Of course there's people engineering that shit. But here's the thing. They didn't count on the fact that you can have a value distribution system outside of the banking system that rewards you value for value based on the value that the community perceives that you produce, right? The wider community. When you have that, you can literally sidestep all of this bullshit that they're setting up, where it's just, oh, sorry, we just eliminated the middle class. Oh, sorry, you've got to do these degrading things in order to get your UBI, right? That's where it's going. It's obvious that's where it's going. And here we are. There is a solution to this. You can build non-censorable, non-KYC, dignifying systems outside of the banking system that distribute value to people who are creating value. That is their kryptonite, bro. That is the system's kryptonite. That is the opposite of where they want to go. And it's here and it works. That's how you provide freedom. That's how you provide a second chance to people. And it's how you build a thriving middle class, because it doesn't rely on their system at all. It's a mirror world. It's a parallel economy.
Yeah. You don't replace anything. No replacement of the dollar, nothing like that. You just make a better version of it. The elements are out there to do that. We have a way to protect our free speech. We have a way to turn that free speech into value, to turn it into a dollar that can be sent anywhere in the world instantly for no fee. And we also have a way for people to earn these dollars in a dignified manner just by providing value and showing value. And as it grows, the consensus of what value is broadens and more people get opportunities. It's a fire that is meant to grow. If it gets out of hand, it does have a way of forking and heal itself. We've seen it before. The attack would require making everyone on the chain incredibly rich. So the network is very agile when it comes to being attacked. It doesn't like to be attacked. It's more of a demoralize the population so no one picks up the tools. If everyone picks up the tools, it's very unstoppable in theory. It's actually the only thing that I've ever found that I can't stop. I obsess over thoughts all day over things like consensus and battles and just, I don't know, weird shit like that. And I like to destroy things in my mind because then you can find a solution how to fix it. And that's how I look, Bitcoin, see all the flaws, Ethereum, and the rest, once you find Ethereum, the rest are easy. But when it comes to Hive, there's always a way out. There's always a fork. There's always a group of people who are going to be like, fuck you. If you attack it, you become richer. It's very agile. Now, it's not perfect in terms of human greed and human nature, but we're dealing with humans. There is no code as law.
It has to be imperfect.
Exactly. So it's like it's this dysfunctional thing that's fucking can't be controlled. It's just like if you hit it, it just gets more angry. It may not be the best thing. You may be slow in certain areas, but you don't control it. And we just piggyback off of everything they do. And it's just going to be the rising tide. It's going to be the revolution. It's not going to be televised. It'll be televised in the places where it's changing lives, but not in the propaganda states, the UBI states. You'll never hear about it. But you will hear about it when you go to certain parts of the world. You'll be like, oh my God, this is everywhere. And it's going to be this crazy little thing where people are going to find out. They're like, what the hell is this thing? It's like, I don't know if you ever gone to China, didn't know about WeChat, and you realize, oh, the WeChat's fucking, what the fuck is WeChat? Rosarito, Itby, oh, what the fuck is Itby? Like, people are going to go and they're like, what is this fucking parallel economy? It's like dominant here. It's like, I have to use it here. And they're just going to accept it. Like they accept using the peso or whatever country you're in. They'll accept the game. They'll be like, okay, I'll download the app. Better money always rises to the top. Every country in the world needs dollars. They need it in a way they don't need to have to trust somebody, especially anybody connected to the SWIFT system. The SWIFT system has been weaponized.
And you know what's beautiful about this, right? This initiative, Spend HBD. Like, I think it hasn't been realized, but we can piggyback off their system with that as well. Because when you spend money, that transaction is a thing. And if you then receive parallel economy money as part of that spend, you're literally propagating the parallel economy while people are spending. And everyone on the planet has to spend. That's a given. Don't get me wrong, I'm pro cash. Like, that's fine. We should have a government that produces cash, so everyone can have a private exchange. But at the same time, you could create private accounts on these blockchains and pay for goods and services in your local restaurants, your local coffee shops. And then this system can detect that and pay you back to an anonymous account, right? And that way you're creating these dollars and distributing them around the world, and you're creating the parallel economy every time you spend in the current economy, which I think is just freaking poetic, almost.
The dollar only has value because of its network effect. That's why they drop dollars everywhere. That's why they volunteer. That's why they get in everybody's business. They want everyone to have dollars. So it's the same thing. We're just distributing a better dollar. And the great thing is everyone likes dollars. So we're not offering a new product. We're offering a dollar, but a better way to send it. How does PayPal send dollars? How does Visa send dollars? There's a bunch of weird shit going on in the background, archaic technology. Our way of sending a dollar is much better. It's much more efficient, much more lightweight, doesn't rely on banks, therefore you don't need to KYC. It's not like it's against KYC. It makes KYC irrelevant because you don't need a bank. You send it and you don't need some person to hold it for you. Like everyone on Hive holds their own keys because it's a natural thing to do, because it's easy, and it's just like, it's a world, it's a parallel world, it's a parallel economy where you interact with so many different things that of course you hold your own keys. You don't need to, there's no fees, there's no reason.
So let's come back to runes and Bitcoin ordinals. There's a lot of people saying that these things are useless shitcoins on top of Bitcoin. It's like, yeah, if you look at it from that point of view, okay, they're just shit coins, and people are going to trade them. They're going to put memes on them. They're going to try their best to create value for their community via these coins, right? Which is it's a natural desire of humans to do that. And the question is, maybe what if you can now we can identify these Bitcoin communities, right? You can identify a Bitcoin machines community, you can identify all the various other ordinals communities. You're going to have different runes communities popping up now. So there's going to be all these different factions of Bitcoin communities all over the place, right? That in itself is inherently valuable, because if you can begin to distribute value to those communities and incentivize them for doing things, right? And every time they do something valuable, they get some of this currency. They get some of this parallel economy currency with 0 fees, clears in 3 seconds. There's no massive fee on the bottom of it. It's got no pre-mine, no CEO behind it. It's truly parallel. It's separate to the economy. And you can distribute that value to those communities and let them benefit from that technology. That's very, very, very valuable.
Yeah. Hive is like it's this thin layer, thin veil. So if you look at Bitcoin, you have a bunch of other things. But really, I think a lot of them are going to be more bank-related, become more privatized. As people realize what they are. You're going to have Bitcoin, and Hive is like this thin veil that goes all the way around it and makes it actually work and practical and decentralized. Yeah, for everybody. So what's great about that is it takes me a while to understand things. Like memes, NFTs, at first I was like, okay, I don't quite understand it. I never dismiss them. I don't call them dumb. I don't, something I don't understand. It's like, okay, there's a human phenomenon happening that I don't understand. So I'll stay away. I'm not going to invest. And then as it happens and I start to understand it and actually look at it, I'll forget about it and I'll see it happens again. I'm like, okay, it's relevant. Humans are doing this again. And now I understand that it's like humans, first of all, life's about having fun. It's about entertainment, right? Like, who are you to say what people should do they find interesting? And there's a lot of interesting characters now that made a lot of money. And they like memes as a way of connecting with each other and of pumping each other. It's a competitive thing, pumping each other, what's your meme's gonna be better and all that. And I look at that and I find it interesting because they have staying power. It's basically a group of people who are like, this is our meme, this is what we're gonna, this is our community. Very primitive, right? Because you're just talking a ticker. And then of course Hive as a veil takes that ticker and builds a whole world around it where you become a nation state one day, right? Like you evolve from a ticker to an actual fucking nation state, printing your own money and having DAOs and having everything you could possibly ever want while keeping your ticker on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's become more of the new NASDAQ, right? Going to take a lot of shares away from Ethereum, I believe. Look for Ethereum probably to come some kind of Bitcoin layer 2-esque like narrative, something happening there. I think you're gonna have a lot of EVMs trying to flop to a Bitcoin, which just shows that Hive has been like literally right the whole entire goddamn time, because you don't build the EVMs on the layer 1 on Bitcoin. You have all these fucking EVMs, Solana flocking to fucking Bitcoin, acting like layer 2s, understanding that, the data on that's important. We take that data and we do shit with it. But then they realize how limited it is. You add another data availability layer to Bitcoin that's bigger, that communicates with Bitcoin. Now you can just fucking clog all of this, right? Whatever the fuck you want, and have it clear to Bitcoin on your own terms. Or maybe never.
Here's the problem.
But you can trust it. There's no batching on Hive. Hive's layer 1 security.
0 fees.
So I mean, you can hold it on Hive as long as you fucking want, and then one day it's cheap. You clear it on Bitcoin whenever you want. So trusting stacks or whatever the fuck. Centralized layer 2.
That's where, like, if you look at all these other so-called layer 2s, right? They've all got their own tokenomic system. They've all got their own security systems. So they're really layer 1s pretending to be layer 2s. And the reason that they can't compete with this is because they are forced, because of their ICOs and their pre-mines, to use their own systems to clear to first before they clear to Bitcoin. And so that they can call themselves layer 2s for Bitcoin eventually, right? But they've already got their own tokenomics models in between. And they've got to pay the fees to their node operators. Whereas when you have 0 fees on a base layer, you can clear to Bitcoin. You don't need to worry about that intermediary. So it's the most efficient way to clear to Bitcoin. So it's true layer 2. It's true layer 2. Whereas all these other layer 2s pretending to be layer 1s, they've got their own tokenomic systems underneath, and they have to pay fees before they pay the fees on Bitcoin. So they can't they're out competed by a feeless layer 1.
Well, so it's interesting. It's almost new terminology because technically you can't have a layer 2 on a high fee layer 1. However, you actually can. It's not a layer 2 though. It almost be like a layer 1.5. I don't know what you would call it. It's a system that has its layer 1 security yet clears to what is perceivably, I'll say perceivably because some could argue which is stronger. We'll go ahead and say Bitcoin is the strongest consensus model in the world right now, the most immutable. So you have a censorship resistant layer that it's not batching. You're fucking secure there, but yet you want more security. So you put it onto Bitcoin, right? That is a technical layer 2. You are batching and putting on the layer 1 of Bitcoin. But you have layer 1 security because people need to understand if there's a high fee layer, the layer 2 in itself needs its own security because it can't rely on the layer 1 because it has to batch. And so Hive is a layer 1 that is decentralized, is censorship resistant. All of the rest are not, period. If you want to debate it, come on, we can argue and you can prove me wrong. I'm going to go ahead and be audacious and say none of them are decentralized. Hive is the only one that you can trust your data, the same goddamn custom JSON you want to put on Bitcoin, you put on Hive. You wait as long as you want, and you can even set it auto. When fees hit this low, put it in there. Right? And now you're on fucking Bitcoin. You have you could call it layer 2 with layer 1 security.
It's a UTXO system that's actually got a security layer.
Yeah.
It
has layer 1 security, yet interacts with Bitcoin, so it makes it even. It's a layer 2 to Bitcoin with layer 1 security.
Yes.
It's fucking ridiculous.
That's it.
It's so fucking ridiculous.
It beats UTXOs, man. It beats UTXOs. And also, it's non-custodial. We're getting to the point now where the fees on Bitcoin are getting so high that the custodial layer 2s are doing UTXOs, and they're holding your UTXOs on your behalf. Right? It's like, at which point do you lose sovereignty? You lose sovereignty at that point, right? Whereas this, you have a feeless base layer that you can clear to that's separate to Bitcoin. You can do all your transactions on, and then, like Dan just said, when the fee's low enough on Bitcoin, auto clear to Bitcoin, right? So now you don't need to worry about UTXOs even being custodial because you've got effectively what are non-custodial UTXOs on a feeless base layer that can clear to Bitcoin when it's ready, you know? That's a big deal.
It adds a stable coin and it's smart contracts. It does everything that Bitcoin needs. It does it better. Bitcoin is the liquidity. It is what the centralized forces are going to use, which is perfect, thank God, because the banking system would not have worked. Our chances of survival would go down by over 90%. Now we have I don't do things. You're the cat, very practical. It's the most practical sign. That means that if I don't see a path forward, I don't do it because it doesn't make logical sense. It's there has to be a victory route. There can't be a point where you get into the battle and you say, well, I don't know what I would do there. There always has to be a way. If this happens, if this happens, if this happens, and you go down every goddamn scenario. And of course, there's black swans, and you can game plan for black swans. What do you do in the unexpected? With this, it's a very clear path forward. We can connect to Bitcoin's liquidity anytime we want. We make Bitcoin better in every single way. We do it in ways others cannot because others need a business model. How much is Stack's yearly bill? How much is Polygon's yearly bill? The fact they have a yearly bill is ridiculous. It sounds stupid. It's laughable. You don't have a business model. You have a literal community-run transaction layer that's attached to a data availability layer that has an algo stablecoin that does everything that Bitcoin can, but does it better and cheaper. Yet you can still get Bitcoin security if you want, when you want, at the price you want, without sacrificing self-custody. Because on Hive, you actually self-custody. On Stacks, it's not self-custody. If you have to trust Stacks, if you're on Stacks chain, you're trusting Stacks. Stacks is a pre-mine I believe they're coin voting. I believe they do everything wrong. They don't have the tech stack right. They don't approach any of this shit right. They're like a layer 2 Bitcoin with smart contracts on their data availability layer. They don't realize they have to become Bitcoin, but better, a better version of Bitcoin that has the censorship resistance of Bitcoin, that has its own algo stable coin, that can send for 0 fees, that can then clear to Bitcoin because you want it on Bitcoin's proof of work, right?
You know, one of the things that I liked, you sent me last night a site that shows all the Rune coins and how many pre-mines they've got. So this is one of the things that I like about Bitcoiners is they're very alert to these pre-mines, right? You go on CoinMarketCap and you won't be able to see where the pre-mines are. But you go on the Bitcoin sites where they're showing, what's the site called? Do you remember the name?
Leo, I don't know. Leonic, some fucking NFT.
Anyway, it's
or
got all
not T, runes, mint. I wanted to mint some runes, but the prices are so high, I didn't realize. That's the thing when people, I might say,
well, let me make this point. Let me make this point.
Make a point.
So the fact is that Bitcoiners are looking at these runes, right? And they're saying, how many of these runes have got pre-mines? Now, to me, I always feel like once this like initial round of trading's done and it's all, the dust settles and you get into normal operation of these communities, you've just created a decentralized voting system. Like forget everything else, right? The fact that you've got a group of people that are identified as whatever meme they're going to use, whatever NFT they're going to use, and then they've got their own tokens, and they've got the tokens in proportions to basically how much they've traded that token. Yeah. That's on a very basic level. It's a coin voting system within a community. That's very valuable stuff, man, for sovereignty, for building network states. I mean, I don't think people are even close to thinking like this yet. But eventually, that's where it goes. It's like you've got these little pockets of ecosystems.
Human nature always goes there.
And eventually it builds its own network states with its own governance systems. And that, to me, it's an amazing experiment. It's great to see that the Bitcoiners are identifying the ones with the pre-mines, because now you know your vote ain't fair, right? Eventually, it'll come to the point where you build your network state. Like these dudes had a 20% pre-mine. Why do we want to deal with you? Whereas the runes that didn't have a pre-mine, those are the ones that gave fair vote value to the rest of their community.
The thing is, you have to choose decentralized layers that live on top of Bitcoin. It's obvious now. I hope that everyone can see that, what I've been saying for so damn long, that Bitcoin is for the rich, the elite. If you want to clear on the base layer, it'll cost you money, or you will trust a layer 2. Now, the layer 2 must be decentralized, right? It cannot have a pre-mine. It cannot have smart contract. So I would call VSC almost a layer 3, whatever you want to call it, a smart contract layer, because you get confusing with these numbers, because it lives beside Hive, right? We didn't mash the smart contracts in the Hive. We have a layer which is called computation, a computation layer. That is something you can never, ever measure. You don't know what computation is going to be. People might say, processors get stronger, but transactions get more sophisticated, right? If that's the truth, and Ethereum's been around for however long, why isn't it cheaper to do computation should have got better in the last 5 years, no? 5 years is a long time for technology. Why isn't it fucking super cheap to fucking run an Ethereum computation, right? Because computation's expensive and these transactions get more complex. You add another thing, you add another action, before you know you're doing 180 actions, and it costs you $1,000. That's not going away, it's volatile. Where its text is always stable. So you need to separate this crazy volatile layer that's like, I only deal with this and I'm paid on demand based on what it costs. And then you have a text layer that lives underneath that's like, I don't need to bother with all that shit. I just need to make sure the truth and the orders of transactions are right. That's what Hive did. And then you have Bitcoin here as this orbiting sun that all businesses are going to accept. It's going to be integrated everywhere. Lightning Network's going to be everywhere. It's our liquidity, our way out to fiat, which is another world here. We just attach that layer and wrap ourselves all around it until people realize, I can earn a stable coin on the Lightning Network, use it with the Lightning Network by providing value, and I can also have my freedom of speech, my own front end, everything I could possibly use and make Bitcoin so much better. Oh, and by the way, I could send a fraction of a Bitcoin for no money. All of these things are offered with Hive. It's so synergetic that Hive sits on top of every use case that Bitcoin is lacking right now. But it's clear that, the elite are going to use the base layer, need to have a decentralized alternative that interacts with Bitcoin.
Yeah. I think we can call it there. Should we make any comments on the runes market of last night? I mean, the fees were crazy, going through the roof, the way people were clamoring to get these first runes, these first Satoshis, get their transactions in there and outbid each other. I think that's one of the reasons the fees are so high. I think it'll calm down at some point, maybe come back to somewhere about $5 a fee, maybe $2 a fee in the next few weeks. But I don't think it's going to go back down to 50 cents again. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think we're going to see at least 10. I think $50 will probably be the average. Maybe $10 to send on cheap days. In the near future, in the medium future, it's only going to get worse.
This is going to explain to you, like, if you see these fees going up, it explains to you how much money some people have. Some people are so wealthy and they can afford to flex their wealth in this way, and it's going to be a thing with their friends. Look what I just did on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Exactly.
I just bought this like high value SAT, and it's mine, and I put whatever I wanted on it.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big deal for rich people to be able to flex. And it's going to take thousands of poor people to just add up to the amount of money that's required to do that type of transaction. People are going to be like, holy shit, this is like a big wealth disparity here. Which is what the system ultimately wants. We talked earlier about the middle class.
Bitcoin absorbs everything in terms of it'll absorb art. It'll absorb because the whole, not true art, but a lot of art is for money laundering and store value and just ways to hide your value. It's the same thing. Gold problems. Like, how do you send a Mona Lisa? Being able to have pictures that are super expensive on rare sets on the Bitcoin blockchain are going to be highly coveted stores of value, and the rich need ways to store their value. So now it's like you have Bitcoin, but you also have a single set that could be worth $100 million that they can send instantly to anyone in the world, and it just becomes this ultimate.
That's a really good simile, actually. That the international art markets. Normal people don't know about that stuff. They don't see it, but it's there, and it's worth billions of dollars, right? That's kind of where Bitcoin's being taken at the moment. I feel like this earn stablecoin in a parallel economy, clear to Lightning, freedom tool for everyone to use is a curveball that they haven't anticipated. But it's kind of natural. They're kind of naturally taking it to this international art dealer market where the normal people don't really know much about it. They don't interact with it because it's too expensive, and billions of dollars of business get transacted up there. I'm going to be very interested to see what happens with Bitcoin when people realize that there is a stable coin, a Lightning stable coin that can transact for free with zero fees and clear instantly and pay for Lightning invoices. I think that's going to be very, very interesting to see how that curveball hits them. But yeah, that's where Bitcoin's becoming like a precious, a rare art market, basically. That's from what I can tell.
Yeah, that's where high fees will always be. Transactions, but mostly just people putting stuff on chain. That was an accident that the core devs put in Taproot. And I think it's an okay use case. So just rally around it. Make sure that you have decentralized for everyone. Make sure everyone can be self-custody. Everyone has dignity. That's the whole goal. Bitcoin solved it for the rich, and Hive's going to solve it for everyone else.
Any thoughts on any of the communities that you've seen that you thought were interesting?
I wanted to mint some last night, but the fees are so high. I didn't understand when $700 a mint or something. I had no idea what they're going to price, so I was just going to see what happens. I like studying it though. I like seeing what the communities have and what Hive can offer in value. But yeah, there's interesting. Meme coins are interesting. Interesting.
That's the interesting thing to me is this idea of communities being formed on Bitcoin, and then those communities can, ultimately Bitcoin's never going to be able to give those communities everything that they need to become fully sovereign. That's the thing for me. I know a lot of maxis will say, no, we're going to build it eventually. It's like, yeah, but you're going to have to integrate other technologies to do that. And this is where I'm very excited about this stuff.
Crypto's the only way.
This technology already exists. It's just a case of integrating it. and serving those communities so that they have all the tools that they need to comment online, to comment on chain in ways that are immutable, to talk to each other, to form communities, to vote. And this can all go on base layers that are neutral, that act as like side chains to Bitcoin. That is the exciting thing, you know. And then even, you know, how do you distribute your own token? At the moment, they're just plain Jane tokens, right? But then the next step is, well, can you tie that into some social interactivity? Is there a way that people can be social, produce value socially, and then the community can vote for them and distribute value to them that way? These are all technologies that exist already, and they've all been solved. It's just a case of how do we integrate them with the communities that are forming on Bitcoin at this point. That, to me, is incredibly interesting, and I'm very, very excited about it going forwards. All right, until the next one.